Are you ready for the unexpected? Here we go. Number 1, the Spartans. Everyone knows the Spartans, but most people don't know how insanely brutal their training was. Boys were ripped from their families at age 7 and tossed into military camps called the agoge. Imagine a summer camp but with less marshmallows and more getting whipped if you complained. They were starved on purpose so they'd learn to steal food without getting caught. And here's the kicker: if they did get caught, it wasn't the theft that got them punished. It was the failure. More impressive Spartans were trained to fight barefoot, shirtless, and basically immune to pain. They were taught to sleep outside in the freezing cold with no blankets. If you whined, more lashes. Their philosophy was simple: suffer now, dominate later. In battle, they fought in the phalanx formation. Shields locked so tightly it was like a human tank. That's why at Thermopylae, 300 Spartans held off tens of thousands of Persians for days. That's not a movie exaggeration. That's recorded history. Another fun fact: Spartan women were actually some of the most educated and physically trained women in the ancient world. While other Greek women were told to stay indoors, Spartan girls lifted weights, ran races, and threw javelins. Why? Because Spartans believed strong women made strong babies. Number 2, the Mongol. If Spartans were tanks, the Mongols were fighter jets. These guys could ride for days without stopping, practically glued to their horses. They learned to shoot arrows while galloping at full speed, aiming with deadly accuracy. Think about it. You can barely text while walking, and they were hitting moving targets while riding at 30 miles an hour. The Mongol bow was a composite monster made of wood horn and sinew, capable of piercing armor at distances modern archers dream about. Historical tests and records suggest it could accurately hit targets at 150 to 200 yards and still deliver lethal force well past 300 to 400 yards. For comparison, most modern Olympic recurve bows max out around 77 yards. Genghis Khan's army swept across Asia and Europe, crushing everyone in their path. Their military strategies are still studied in West Point today. They faked retreats to lure enemies into traps, moved faster than anyone thought possible, and coordinated attacks across thousands of miles using a relay system of riders. Basically, they had Amazon Prime delivery speed, but for destruction. And let's not forget how they used fear as a weapon. When the Mongols came for a city, it wasn't some endless siege that dragged on for years. Most of the time, the place fell in a few weeks, sometimes just a couple of days. They made sure terrifying stories traveled ahead of them, so by the time they arrived, whole towns were already shaking. Some cities surrendered without even fighting, just to avoid becoming the next horror story. Modern special forces brag about being fast and mobile, but the Mongols were doing that centuries ago. Number 3, the Zulu Warriors. Fast forward to Africa, 19th century. The Zulu Warriors under Shaka Zulu were redefining warfare. Instead of throwing spears from a distance, Shaka introduced the ikulwa, a short stabbing spear that forced close combat. The name came from the sound it supposedly made when pulled out of an enemy's body. Brutal but effective. He trained his men to fight in the buffalo horns formation, where the main force hit the enemy head-on while the flanks wrapped around and crushed them. The Zulus didn't wear armor, they relied on speed, endurance, and raw aggression. And it worked. Shaka transformed the Zulu army from scattered tribal militias into a disciplined war machine. He forced his soldiers to go barefoot so their feet became tough as leather. He drilled them to march over 50 miles in a single day, carrying only their weapons and a few rations. Retreat was forbidden. If a unit failed in battle, survivors were often executed to maintain discipline. Harsh, but it created fighters who feared their own king more than the enemy. This system produced shocking results. For decades, they dominated battles against better-armed opponents. Even the British, with rifles and cannons, were stunned by Zulu tactics. At the Battle of Isandlwana in 1879, over 20,000 Zulu warriors overwhelmed a British column of 1,800 troops, killing more than 1,300 in a single afternoon. It was one of the worst defeats the British Empire ever suffered at the hands of an indigenous force. Their formations and tactics are still studied in military history today. That proves the Zulus weren't just warriors. They were innovators who turned raw human strength into military science. Number 4. The Viking Raiders. The Vikings weren't just drunk guys with horned helmets. No matter what pop culture tells you, they were terrifyingly effective warriors who combined seafaring skill with brutal combat. Their long ships could glide up rivers, attack inland villages, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. Vikings fought with axes, swords, and shields, and they used psychological warfare too. Imagine hearing their war cries and seeing berserkers charging half-naked, painted in blood, acting like wild animals. Berserkers were believed to fight in a trance-like fury immune to pain and fear. Modern psychologists think they may have used hallucinogens, but whatever the cause, it worked. Whole towns surrendered at the sight of them. The Navy SEALs may rule the oceans today, but the Vikings ruled them 1,000 years ago. And they did it without GPS or night vision goggles. Number 5. The Assassins. The word assassin literally comes from this group. In the Middle East during the Crusades, a secretive sect called the Hashashin made entire empires tremble. They didn't field armies. They didn't storm castles. They killed with precision, often in broad daylight, and always in a way that sent a message. Their victims were usually high-ranking leaders. The killings were so shocking that rumors spread faster than facts. They used stealth and disguise. Psychological terror did the rest to destabilize their enemies. Whole armies hesitated to fight simply because they feared assassination. That's power without firepower. Their base was hidden in mountain fortresses, the most famous being Alamut in modern-day Iran. From these strongholds, they trained their followers in strategy languages and espionage. What made them terrifying wasn't just the killings, it was the psychology. They would often strike in crowded places right in front of witnesses. It was their way of proving that no walls, guards, or armies could protect you. Leaders knew that sleeping with 10 guards at the door meant nothing. One assassin could still slip inside disguised as a servant. Imagine the paranoia. Rulers kept looking over their shoulders. Armies hesitated. An entire campaign stalled because of the fear of a dagger in the dark. Number 6. The Immortals. The Persian Empire's elite soldiers were called the Immortals. And the name wasn't just for show. Their unit was kept at exactly 10,000 men. If one died, he was immediately replaced. To outsiders, it looked like they never took losses. Like the same 10,000 soldiers kept coming back over and over. They fought with spears, bows, and swords, but their real strength was psychological. Facing an endless wave of perfectly organized troops was demoralizing. The Immortals marched in elaborate uniforms. Their wicker shields and scale armor glinted in the sun. They were the backbone of Persian military power, feared by the Greeks and admired even by their enemies. Think about it. Navy SEALs might be elite, but if one falls, he can't just be instantly replaced. The Immortals made war feel like fighting a machine. Conclusion. So here's the truth. Every generation thinks its warriors are the toughest, but history is full of people who trained harder, fought longer, and invented tactics that modern armies still copy. Spartans made pain a classroom. Samurai made honor deadlier than bullets. Mongols turned the horse into a weapon of mass destruction. Zulus rewrote the rules of combat. Vikings ruled the seas with raw terror. Assassins mastered the art of fear. And the Immortals turned warfare into an illusion of endless power. If that doesn't make you respect ancient warriors, nothing will.